One of the challenges for corporate leaders at the time of this great transformational innovation that some regard as disruptive is how do you bring these ideas authentically from outside into your organization? Now, many of these well-run organizations have well-established R&D departments who are working on developing what's happening, developing the business as usual. And that's a very important axis of innovation. But there are other axes and other ways of getting that innovation. And one of the challenges for the corporate leaders is to look at their portfolio of efforts, realize how R&D adds great value, but that actually some of the most innovative ideas may come from elsewhere and not just in the labs. It may come from a startup, an innovation-driven enterprise out at the frontier, or it may come from a completely different sector where you see that somebody has solved a different problem, but you could adapt that solution. And so there's a variety of different approaches to innovation, and the challenge for the leader is to get away from that not invented here syndrome, because realistically a lot of ideas are going to be floating around in the wider ecosystem. So it's important to respect the ideas that come from within the organization and empower people to take those forward, but also to create the space and tackle the corporate culture that might get in the way of it being successful to actually take other ideas from elsewhere and bring them in and make them authentic to the business as usual. One of the reasons that innovation really matters to corporates, and I get so passionate about teaching corporate innovation, is there are wider consequences if the corporations don't get good at innovation. And one slightly historical example I'd like to draw on is the story of Kodak and Polaroid, two fabulous companies of the 20th century who were really good at producing film, 35mm chemical film. Both had great R&D departments who pushed back the boundaries of chemical photography. They got into patent disputes with each other. But they also both invented digital technology. And so their innovation challenge was not the technological one, they invented it. It was the management and leadership one. That they didn't proceed with the digital technology because they worried that it would upset their business as usual, the chemical photography. And so they were focused on each other. And what they didn't realize was there were a whole series of startup companies and innovative enterprises were developing digital technology. And so the innovation story here is both of these companies invented the future technology, but then failed to develop it because they were so worried about business as usual and optimizing the same old, same old. And so the challenge here was that they both went bankrupt as a result of not being able to act on the technology they invented, which is sad for both companies. It's even sadder for the two regions. So Polaroid was based here in Greater Boston, and it was a local tragedy when Polaroid went bankrupt. But Greater Boston has a variety of other sectors, education, hospitals, biotech. The failure of Kodak's leadership had a regional impact because Rochester, New York has never really recovered. And so what I tell corporate leaders is this corporate innovation thing is so important, not only for their companies, keeping their companies intact, but it often matters to the wider communities. If you are the major company in a local area, if you're not getting good at this innovation thing and you end up like Kodak and Polaroid because you only focused on business as usual, it's sad for your company, it's sad for your career, it could be really sad for your communities. And so there's a real imperative to getting good at innovation, especially as it accelerates towards us in the 2020s.